So here's the deal. I know you guys are expecting to hear me talk about Dune, but I'm recording this about an hour before I'm going to see Dune. So I won't be talking about it in this weekly update. But don't worry, guys. There'll be lots of Dune coverage coming this weekend. I'm going to talk about it. But first, let's talk about this week. Hey, what's up, bookworms and all my spooky season critters? Mike back with another weekly update as we are headed closer and closer to the most fun day of the year, that is Halloween, for all those who didn't know what the most fun day of the year is. But lots of things going on this week, obviously, and we are going to talk about them. And we're going to begin, like usual, guys, with what am I reading? I did finish The Fisherman, and I'm still think I'm processing a little bit. I did not dislike the book. Don't go there yet. But I will say I think I was expecting a little more based off of what I heard about it and based off what I've read about it. I don't know. Like I said, I'm still kind of like processing because I hated the narrative decisions that he made in the book. It's like, hey, here's this really cool story with these characters. Now we're going to give you a history for 60 pages of the book. Then we're going to go back to those little characters there and then give you the kind of a quick ending that I felt like probably could have kept going for a while. So I honestly, I feel like you could have cut that middle part, put it like at the beginning, because honestly it kind of took all the mystery out of what was going on away, and that's kind of a drag. But I don't know if I'm going to review this one or not, because I don't know if I'll have enough to talk about without spoiling it. So I don't know. I'll keep thinking about that one. It's one of those that I'm going to say, hey, sure, I think you should check it out and make up your own mind. But I can see why it's a very divisive book from people who have read it. Some people say it's absolutely incredible. Other people say it bored them to tears. I don't think I fall in either of those camps. It did feel almost like say H.P. Lovecraft was trying to write Pet Sematary. It's almost kind of what it felt like, but he kind of lost his way with getting wrapped up in the history, that kind of thing. I don't know. I don't even know if that's a great comparison. That's just kind of where I thought it was going. And then it just kind of did like its own thing for like 130 pages. And there's only a 230 page book, guys. So I don't know. Remains to be seen on that one. It's still up for debate. That's all I read this week, guys. I did kind of ease off a little bit. We've got a lot of things going on with the kids. We're on the PTO at school, Little League, Scouts. I mean, it's just kids they suck up your soul and your time, it seems like. So that's really all I got to read this week. But I did begin something else, but I'm going to save that for what am I going to read, guys? Yes, I did start Necroscope by Mr. Brian Lumley. About 100 pages into it. I think what I'm most surprised about with this book is the amount of math there is in it. I did not expect there to be math in it. I guess I was not expecting a nice Blake Crouch or Michael Crichton novel here. I was expecting to have this much math in it. So that's kind of surprising to me. It's kind of had a weird start. I basically was never how I would have expected this series to start off based off of what I knew about it, which wasn't much, if I'm being fair. But I'm interested enough in Harry and his coming of age, if you will, thus far in the book. So I don't really have a lot to say about it because I'm not that far into it. I mean, this is like a 600, 500 page book, so not that much. But I like the premise thus far that I've gotten, and that'll be my last spooky season read, guys. So if I finish early and I haven't gotten it out of my system, I need some more Halloween content with the month of October left. I might check out another one of those Junji Ito kind of collections, some of his manga horror stories. But I don't know. I feel like I've started to neglect Berserk because so I might just get back on Berserk. Now, if I'm not going to do that, then I'll just be starting my next one that I have for November, which will be Book 1 in Wayward Pines by Blake Crouch. And I bet that'll have less math in it than this one does, which is rather surprising, really. But yeah, that is the plans for right now, guys. Like I said, just kind of taking it easy. Real life kind of got in the way, but also, I got so ahead on my spooky season schedule, and I didn't want to just keep continuing to. I don't know whether people's like, okay, I got an extra day. Let me see if I can fit in a novel. Try not to do that, especially now on Amazon book month, because I feel like you can kind of overexert yourself, and I try not to do that because I don't ever want to be hitting a reading slump when it's time to start a Amazon book, because that can be very, very bad. But there were some things going on this week on the channel. Now, I did call it Stephen King and Family Week because it was very much just Stephen King and Joe Hill this week. We did that with basically first we did The first Joe Hill book that I read was Nosferatu, so I wanted to kind of talk about that one. And I've had a lot of people show that they're interested in putting that as a Christmas read because it does place in something called Christmas Land. And watch that review if you want to know a little bit more, give a little bit more detail on what that is. But yeah, I think it would fit in great in between Halloween and Christmas. It can kind of fit. It's almost like a Nightmare Before Christmas thing where it can be anytime during that span. I think it would fit really, really well. But a very, very good. My favorite. I've read 2 Joe Hill books, novels at this point, because I've also read Lock and Key and In the Tall Grass. But just as far as novels, I've read 2 of them. I've liked them both. Nosferatu being my favorite of those 2. I think constant readers of his dad will like that book quite a bit and feel kind of right at home where it feels. And the other novel that I've read of his, of course, is Heart-Shaped Box, a book that I really, really appreciated the character development that he did in that. It was one of those things where it's like, okay, look, he's not a carbon copy of his dad or trying to be a carbon copy of his dad, but he definitely put an emphasis on character work like his dad does. And that's something that I appreciate a lot. And the 3 main characters, I think, in that book are just developed really, really well. And of course, animal companions, guys. So that's always something I'm going to be a fan of. So I enjoy talking about those 2 Joe Hill books. I'm probably going to be doing Fireman next if I don't do one of his short story collections like 20th Century Ghosts. Like I just saw that trailer for, I think it's called The Black Box. And I heard that is a story in that collection. So I'm interested because that trailer looked very, very good. So I'm glad that there are more Joe Hill things getting adapted. Hopefully they are done better than Nosferatu was adapted. Then as for the Stephen King part of the family here, I did do Back Into the Multiverse, guys, with Needful Things. One of my, I feel like it's kind of become underrated over time. As more and more I was talking about it, and I was just like, dude, this might be like a top 15 book for me of his because of the way that he develops this small town. He takes what he did in Salem's Lot, and he just does it to perfection. It's just basically just puts on a clinic for how you develop a large cast and an amazingly tight community, and it just makes it to where you never once feel like, okay, I got to go back and try to remember who this character is now. You remember who they all are because of the way that he does it. And again, he's the master, guys. When it comes to character work, no one does it better. And that's why I'll read a fantasy book now and I'll be like, all right, if I'm not liking the characters, I'm not liking the book. It's because this bar that he set for me. So Needful Things is definitely a master class in that, and I definitely think that anyone will enjoy that book, not just constant readers. They can have a good time. It's not overly horrific or anything like that. It has a lot of intrigue and things like that I think that anyone can really, really enjoy. So if you haven't really gotten into King yet and you want to start with Needful Things, I think it'd be a great place to start, especially if you're a fantasy reader and you're used to having a large cast. I think that'd be something that you would actually kind of fit in rather seamlessly. And then we went ahead and wrapped that up, guys, with talking with Brian Lee Durfee, something I wanted to do for a while. Was talk to my good friend Brian here, and we are both huge King fans, and getting to pick his brain a little bit about how he got into King and some of his favorite things about King was a lot of fun. The Palaver series overall is something I'm really enjoying doing that now. I've had Sarah Reeds, had Jaime Fuego, and now Brian Lee Durfee. Don't know who I'm going to ask next, but there are no shortage of big-time King fans out there that I would love to talk to and talk about why his books mean as much to them as they've meant to me over my life. I think it's just a fun idea, and I'm glad you guys are still interested in hearing us talk about why we love Stephen King. And no spoilers, guys. I think you'll be just fine in that discussion if you've never read a Stephen King book and you just want to hear Brian be Brian. Brian is definitely Brian in that video. So I want to thank him for coming on with me. It's a great time. I'm glad that we were finally able to get our schedules to line up and get that done. And I look forward to dipping into his soon-to-be complete trilogy early next year. And the only non-King thing I did this week, guys, was I did my spoiler talk number 2 for The Bone Hunters. So if you guys are caught up on Malazan, if you're still along with me, or hell, you've read it before and you just want to hear what a noob thinks about these things and you hear him say, I don't know a lot, hey, by all means, jump in that video and let me know what you think. Like I said, smaller audience for that because I really don't think that many people have read this far in the series, it feels like. So that's fine. That's fine. I mean, I have to detox and get those things out. And Bone Hunters was just a mile a minute. So much stuff to talk about. So yeah, over an hour of spoiler discussion for Bone Hunters. That seems to be par for the course for a Malazan book, but I could have talked about this one for much longer. Basically, it's the Malazan book I've been waiting for, guys. It's my favorite in the series up to this point. But let's talk about a little bit of next week plans. I kind of tipped my hand there with the Dune coverage. Me and Christopher Rocchio, that's the author of Sun Eater. He's been on the channel numerous times. I've been on his channel. Great dude. We've become really good friends. And we love talking about Dune. That's really how it became friends, is as we talked about Dune over email for weeks. And so we have said when this movie finally comes out, a movie that we have both been waiting for since childhood, that we said that we would get together and talk about this afterwards. Well, we talked today and said, I know that not everyone, it's not going to be opening for everyone this weekend, or they can't see it this weekend. So what we're planning to do is late Friday night, I will be dropping our non-spoiler discussion about that. It'd probably be a good half hour. So I don't know. Me and Chris, we get together and we talk a lot. But we'll probably be doing the non-spoilers for about it. The plan is right now on paper to do about a half hour spoiler-free. And then on Saturday, I'll drop our spoiler talk for the Dune movie. So I hope you guys are going to see it. I hope you guys are watching it at the theater because we need part 2 of this. I watched Jeremy John's review and has basically said this movie is so incredible that if I don't get part 2, I'm not going to be okay. Well, I haven't seen it yet, and I already feel that way. So please, guys, if you're only going to watch on HBO Max, watch it like 400 times or something like that. I don't know how those metrics work out on if they know if there's going to be enough interest for a Dune Part 2, but please go see it in the theater if that is an option for you. We're seeing it in IMAX very soon, and I can't stop thinking about it. After that, guys, I'll be doing my standard review for The Bone Hunters. I said I want to keep doing those standard non-spoiler reviews for Malazan because of the high tap-out rate in that series. And if someone's struggling with the book and they want to know, is it worth it for me to keep going? I made it this far. I'm thinking about quitting. Maybe they can watch this and I can let them know, based off of what I say, if they think that what I'm talking about is something that they'll like. So, guys, if you've made it through 5 Malazan books, I'm here to tell you, Bone Hunters is going to be awesome for you because it really is that convergence moment. But I'll talk about it in depth for that. I'll try to get one more review out next week. This one just kind of depends on how the week's going. This is going to be a Halloween week. There is a lot of stuff going on this week. So I'm going to try, guys, to get my review up for I Am Legend by Richard Matheson. This and Jaws are the only books on my top 10 horror novels that I did that I have not done a singular review for. So it came down to a coin flip. Was I going to do that or Jaws? It seemed like there was much more interest in I Am Legend, so I'm going to do that one. But hey, I could do Jaws in the future. You never know. But I Am Legend, a great, great book, and I think if you need me to tell you why you should read it, I don't. I think you're doing it wrong. You should read it right now. But for those who have read it or are curious about it, I will be doing my standard spoiler-free review. Guys, all my reviews are spoiler-free unless I say spoiler talk in the title. I still get to ask that question so much. Is it spoiler-free? All of them, guys. All of them are spoiler-free. If it isn't like First Law, Wheel of Time, or Malazan, it's probably spoiler-free. In Dresden, I've even started breaking those up into 2 parts now. Spoiler-free and spoiler talk. So if it doesn't say spoiler talk in the title, guys, everything on the channel is spoiler-free. I'll probably be doing my off the books next week. So what's my off the books gonna be for this month? I try to think about it. I already did my top 10 horror movies last year for Fright Fest. So what could I wrap up off the books with spooky season on? I said, how about my favorite horror villains? Because, guys, there are a lot of them to talk about. And that's a tough, tough list because there's been a lot of horror villains and even villains that you would think, okay, I wouldn't really consider that a horror movie, but yeah, that character, very horrific. I could see that being in the conversation. So it's one I'm actually going to have to noodle before I do. I've already started writing a list down. I've already got like 40 characters. I was like, we're going to have to whittle that down just a little bit. But that's kind of where we are at with that one. But that's about it for next week, guys. I got a little bit of TV and movie talk here. Sticking with that spooky season theme, guys, I got to talk about Halloween Kills, right? Because it's one of those things where people are like, oh, this is a very divisive movie. Well, look, guys, what I always say about this is it seems like the lower a Rotten Tomatoes critic score is on a horror movie, the more I end up liking it. And that seems par for the course here. And again, the audience score on this one is way higher than the critic score on this one. So the thing is, I think it's just the people who did not like it are being way more vocal than the people who did like it. I am in that minority that thought that the 2018 Halloween was just okay. It wasn't the big matchup with Laurie and Michael that I felt like I had been waiting for, I didn't get an H2O and I didn't get an H40 either. I feel like I've never really gotten that. With this movie, I enjoyed it quite a bit. I enjoyed it a lot more than 2018, to be honest with you, because it was just the shape, stalking, and destroying people. And then, yeah, the body count in this one, way super high, way higher than it's ever been. Look, with me, I don't want to sound like I'm copying Chris Stuckman here because he actually mirrored the thoughts that I was saying on my Discord before I watched his review, in that I watch Halloween for creepy Halloween ambiance and seeing the shape kill people. That's what I'm there for. And that's what this movie gave me. You know, I don't need a movie like Halloween to reinvent the wheel. I hear all these negative reviews of people saying it didn't do anything different. Well, I mean, it's been a franchise for 40 years, guys, because, you know, it's just, it is what it is. I can't believe how much fun I had with this movie. It's ridiculous sometimes. It has a lot of things that'll make you scratch your head why some of these people are doing these things, and I think that's just a Halloween movie, guys. A lot of the sequels have been, look, the 1978 one's always going to be the best for me. I don't think it's possible to top that. You can't catch lightning in a bottle twice. But I think that this is the most fun I've had with a Halloween movie in a long, long time. I mean, maybe Halloween 4, maybe? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, look, guys, I've watched every movie in the series numerous times. I love the series a lot. Even the bad sequels I enjoy for the most part, Halloween Resurrection aside. Season of the Witch, actually, if they didn't put the word Halloween on, I'd like it a lot better, I think. But again, this has gave me what I want, and I don't understand the reviews are saying that it's a snooze fest. I thought this movie was so fast-paced, and the stuff that actually takes place on the night he came home in 1978, and this, I would have liked a whole movie of that. I think that stuff was just brilliant. And what they did with a very popular returning character, I don't want to spoil that for you, was such a cool effect. And dude, Michael does not discriminate in this, man. He goes after everybody. I mean, first responders, doctors, it don't matter. Guy is just wrecking shop in this. So if you're in it for the high body count, yeah, I think you'll have a good time with it. There are some messages in there that I think that some people may be getting misconstrued. But again, guys, it's Halloween. I don't need it to reinvent the wheel. I just want to see Michael and Halloween just slashing some people up. And you get that in spades, you guys. I do want to talk about a little bit more 80s horror here for a second. I just got alerted to this documentary that was done by Kickstarter called In Search of Darkness. Now, this is a 4.5-hour documentary about 1980s horror and what made it so special and why like makeup artists were basically like rock stars in the 1980s. It's just a really, really cool look into, I mean, look, guys, I'm a sucker for documentaries. I can watch a documentary. I was at my mother-in-law's house with my wife, and there was this documentary about how they make balloons, and I was riveted. So, I mean, I'm an easy sell on these things, but when it's something I love, like 1980s horror, it was just so good. It had so many big hitters. It had Elvira. It had John Carpenter, Tom Savini, all these people, Kane Hodder, a lot of names that you know from that time period. And then it had tons of these actors from these movies, you know. So a very, very cool documentary. And little did I know until after I watched it, they've already made a part 2 and they're making a part 3. And this is all done off Kickstarter. So very cool, because I think about the movies that made us on Netflix, they just did their Halloween episode, and even they couldn't get John Carpenter. This got John Carpenter. So very cool just for that alone, because John Carpenter, I mean, one of the greatest horror directors of all time, right? So I'm just there for his stuff alone. But guys, just every damn movie from the 80s that I love in the horror genre is talked about in there, and it's just done so good. So I recommend that if you have the option to find. I think it's a Shudder exclusive. I don't know. A friend of mine actually was part of the Kickstarter, and he let me borrow his. So I'm looking forward to seeing if I can purchase part 2 somewhere, and maybe if I can still join the Kickstarter for part 3, because I think that this is something that's great to hear them reminisce and talk about what all went into it, the heart behind it. But guys, that's pretty much it. We started watching You season 3. I think You is an underrated show. It really is. It was one of those, I looked at the trailer and I said, that probably isn't for me. When me and my wife had The Virus That Shall Not Be Named in early 2019, we binged seasons 1 and 2 while we were homesick, and we loved it. So we've had a long wait for season 3, and it's still really, really good. Penn Badgley in that is just so great. So I recommend if you guys. I think it knocked Squid Game out of number 1 on Netflix. So it's got an audience for sure. And I haven't watched Squid Game yet, guys. So I think I'm gonna be the last person. It'll be like the Tiger King. By the time I watch it, I'm gonna be the last person on Earth to watch it. And everybody's gonna be like, yeah, we're done talking about that at this point. But I guess before I go, should I talk about this Wheel of Time article that came out in GQ? Had a really cool picture of the White Cloaks. I like the way that they look quite a bit. There's a really awesome picture of the Waygate. I really like that. But something in that article that really caught my attention was that they said cost was never an issue with Amazon. They just wanted it to be done right because they really do want the next Game of Thrones to be on the channel. That's encouraging as hell to me, because the biggest worry, I think, about this series for a lot of people, it has been it can't look cheap. In a post Game of Thrones world, guys, people are not going to accept fantasy that looks cheap. It's got to look like you poured some money into it, but it's obviously got to have more than that. But I think that is a very big indicator of what's to come. So I mean, the rumors that I've heard is they're paying like $10 million an episode for this show. So I hope it's true. Again, I think that those White Cloak costumes look much better than I expected. So guys, we're getting closer. I still think the marketing's been really, really weird for this. But again, the more I see, the more I like. Posters aside, I'm never going to get upset about. I mean, even the Dune posters weren't that great, and it's not like I'm not excited for Dune that I see in about an hour. But guys, that's pretty much all I've got for this week. What are you guys up to? What are you watching? What are you reading? What are you playing? What are you listening to? Are you going to see Dune? Tell me that you're going to see Dune, guys, and I will talk to you for those the non-spoiler and the spoiler discussion sometime this week, and I look to talk to you guys there. I'll talk to you in the comments. Have a great weekend, guys.